Hey, how you guys doing? So this is Neil from PerfectSunLED.com, and I got a new light for you guys to check out. Absolutely amazing. So let's check it out. It's the Perfect Sun COB. Looks amazing, performs amazing, and it's kind of that in between. It's for those people that they can't quite afford the Goliath, or they don't want to deal with the weight of the Goliath. This thing doesn't weigh nearly as much. It's 22 inches by 15 inches. It uses 650-watt top bin Cree cobs with supplemented with the proper amount of deep reds and deep blues, infrared and UV, in order to create that perfect sun spectrum using the 5-watt bridge lux. All right, so let's go check it out, and we're going to do average par ratings for this thing, and also average lux, and also with my other lights. So just to show, but I mean, a lot of people don't understand the difference between lux and par, and there's not much difference really. People try to claim there's like some big difference that if you have blue in your light, it's gonna make it change the par rating. No, it's not. You can have I can have an all red light and get the exact same par rating. So the only thing that's in effect is if I did an all green light. But even all green light would still have a pretty high par rating, just not as high as all red because of the fact that it does have a bias toward green. Right, let's get started and look at this thing, and then after that we'll go through the boring process of showing the live readings really quick for the average par rating. And it's absolutely amazing. It's just for you guys to know, it gets 554. That's fucking high. That's almost as high as a 1000 watt HPS, so that is freaking amazing. And it uses 675 watts, so it does use more watts than the Goliath, but it's easier to handle and manage. It's a lot lighter. Let's go ahead and get a look at that. All right, guys. There she is, guys. Bam, the new Perfect Sun COB by Black Diamond. Yeah, she's badass. So she's 22 inches this way, 15 this way. To give an idea how light she is, let me go ahead and grab both of these with one hand, just like this. Oops. One hand here. Grab it with one hand. Watch this. Ready? I'm gonna lift her up, just like that. Super easy. Yeah, I'm pretty strong, but I'm telling you, this thing isn't that heavy at all. So the downside is like I said, it does use more electricity. I tried so hard to beat my Goliath by using cobs, and I haven't been able to do it yet. But this light is a really good intermediate between that. So it comes super close. Like I said, 545 is super close. You'll see the Goliath is going to be right around 600. A 1000 watt, brand new 1000 watt HPS bulb. We've already figured out it was like 575, and that's your average par rating. I'll talk about why that's so important, because that you can actually predict exactly what weight you're going to get, pretty much what weight you can get if everything goes right. And then I'm also going to be measuring a Gavita in this video and showing what it does. And then I'll just go ahead and show some lux readings really fast so you can see the difference. It's really the main difference between lux readings. It uses different number system, so different math to take in the photons. So you get a higher number, but the numbers are totally related to each other. Right, so what's cool about this light is, like I said, it uses top bin, 50 watt bridge, not bridge, sorry, it's 50 watt Cree cob lights. Those are the big bubbles there. And then it uses, to supplement that, because these by themselves aren't powerful enough to get the high par ratings that I need to cover 4x4. It also has the American-made bridge lux, as you can see here, 5-watt diodes. Now that is to make the perfect sun spectrum. If it were just the white light, it wouldn't be the perfect sun spectrum. You know, it would just be white light. And although like a 4000K white light does pretty good at growing marijuana, it's not the sun. It lacks UV. It has some infrared, but it still lacks infrared. The sun has tons of infrared, tons of UV, like tons of that shit. So that needs to be in there if you want to try to replicate the sun. Now, my whole theory from the beginning was, hey, let's replicate the sun in spectrum, and guess what happened? I got the best yields per area, the best average par per area, and it shows even with this light here that you know, it's freaking amazing. The spectrum blows plants up. It makes them veg so fast and big. It makes them blow up and flower with big fat buds. I mean, the spectrum is absolutely amazing. I don't know any other LED market company out there that can get soda can sized buds. I got newbies, guys. Newbies that just started. Sorry, noobs. And, I was a noob once too. It's not a big deal. It's not like a put down. I got newbies that are pulling off soda can size nugs off my lights. It's amazing. I have newbies that are pulling over a gram per watt off my light. It's like it's easy to pull a gram off my light. It's like if you don't pull a gram, per watt off one of my lights, then something went wrong with the grow badly. Like that's how easy it is to do. That's like the minimum you should get is a gram per watt. Whereas with HPS, you're like, oh yeah, got a gram per watt. That's like Superman status, Right. So it's got 2 buttons on it. Instead of a dimmer, I decided to do 2 switches. Each switch turns off different lights, which I thought was a pretty cool idea because, one, it saves you guys money. Guess how much this is going to cost you guys once it's ready and available? It's going to be available hopefully in about a month, maybe 2, because I'm going on vacation. But yeah, it's going to be ready very soon, and the price is only going to be $8.95. So at least that's the price I want it to be at. So the same price as the 1000. What's cool about this light is if you wanted to order a special version of it that uses different lenses to focus the lens more like the 1000, then you can actually use it like a Perfect Sun 1000 on a mover, and it actually covers the edges better than the 1000. I know it's shorter than 1000, but these one thing these COBs do well is they throw the light out nicely. But again, if I put the 90 lenses on there, it wouldn't throw it out to the edges as much. Now, this is designed to grow from about 23 inches away through most of the grow, which is absolutely fantastic, because that's a good distance to be away, and that puts you at like 1300 something par in the center, and all the way to 800 all the way around, and most of the marks, and all the way in the very edges at around that 200 mark. So it's got really good even covers like the Goliath, but it still falls a little bit short from the Goliath as far as its average par rating. But honestly, it's not that far behind it. So, if you just can't afford the Goliath, because it's, $1,150, but you can afford this one, this is a good go-between. This is really good for tent growers. The Goliath is really designed more for like serious growers, especially commercial growers that need to pull that 2.5 to 3 pounds per light, and that's what the Goliath can do. This one can still keep up with it pretty good though, where you can pull off, 2 pounds of light, You'll definitely pull off like 1.8, 1.7 pretty easy with this thing. But I know I can pull 2 pounds off of this light based on the average par rating it has. So the 2 buttons, what they do, if you check this out, what they're for, now, all my lights, the spectrum is made for both veg and for flowering, just like the sun. But you don't have to fucking flip switches on the sun and go, hey, I need to veg my plants. I'm going to fine tune the sun to be veg. No, the sun already does everything perfectly. And that's what this is. That's what my lights do. My lights are the sun, right? Indoors, right? They bring the sun indoors and give you that nice, awesome light that you need from the sun, having the deep reds, the deep blues, the light reds, the light blues, everything in between. The UV, the infrared, all that, everything the sun has is in here, and it's in there at a high degree. It's not in there just by little amounts, It's a big mountain of all that stuff, and it's absolutely amazing when you look at my graph of the spectrum from my spectrometer. Anyway, so instead of the dimmer switch, this is kind of doing the same thing. So if your plants get too tall toward the light and they start, kind of burning, you're like, hey, you know what? Until they can handle this intensity, I need to turn it down. Bam, you hit one of these switches, and you just turned it down. Now, each switch does a different thing. This one, you notice, leaves 4. It has 3 sections of the bridge luxes on, and it has 4 of the 50-watt Cree, top bin Cree COBs on there. If you flip the other switch, it leaves the opposite. So it leaves 2 of the COBs on and 3 of the bridge lux squares on. And so it just depends on how much intensity that, oops, sorry about that. Switch that back on there. Sorry about that. I accidentally pulled out this plug a little bit. But yeah, so you turn them both off. And then you can turn one on at a time. And they have the nice big fat switches that'll last a long time. It's got the nice same kind of hook that the Goliath uses. I really like these because you can actually take your clips from your ratchets and just hook your ratchets right in here if you wanted to. So you just use 4 ratchets if you wanted to do that. That is these ratchets right here. So you can just put the ratchets right on there if you want to. The light's not heavy enough to do that, but that's how I recommend hanging the Goliath, is with actually 4 ratchets, and you put the ratchets right through these things here and bypass the thing that the Goliath comes with altogether. But this right here is not the Goliath, we're just saying. Good way to run the Goliath. Right, so, like I said, you got the Perfect Sun spectrum in this thing, and I'll show the spectrum and what it looks like, because it's freaking amazing. It's just like, you know, they're the lights, tons of deep reds, tons of deep blues. And one of the things to look at in the spectrum, when you look at the spectrometer, is that band of blue and that band of red. They need to be thick. You need to really pay attention to the numbers there and kind of look at how much of that deep blue is there, how much of that deep red is there, how much of that 660 is there, 670, how much of that, 430 there is there, that deep red. Right, so we got the par meter here. And also another thing that people have wondered is when you take, like, let's say I want to measure out here. I'm going to get some of this out of the way. What if I wanted to measure out here, let's say to the edge, where we're away from, say I want to measure out here to the edge right here, where we're away from the edge of the light, right? So the light doesn't actually extend out here to the 4-foot mark. The light it does, but I'm saying the actual light itself is like right here, right? Bam, like that. So the actual edge of the light doesn't come out here, but the light spectrum comes out here. Anyway, you can see that if I have it, now obviously when I do this for all lights, I'm not going to have any bias. I'm going to angle this at the edges for all lights, so including the Gavita HPS. When you have it at the slight edge like this, you can see just slightly turn. I'm not going to turn it like all the way down like that, right? And then it doesn't really change the number much anyway. Hopefully you can see that number. That's one thing about my spectrum. It makes it hard to see the number. But anyway, you can see right there, it's right around, hopefully you can see that, can you see that number? 233. Now, if I take this piece of black here, they're thinking, oh, it's bouncing off the white, right? So let's go ahead and put the black piece of paper, cardboard here. And notice that, still 230, whatever that is. We've got to move out of the way of the light. 236, 235, right? Move it out of the way. You can see it doesn't really change much, right? Hardly at all. So it's staying the same. So it doesn't bounce off this white like you would think. You would think that you would get like a huge amount of difference. Alright guys, so let's take these measurements. I'm going to start from the center, and then I'm going to move to the 1 foot away from the center, and then 2 feet away from the center. And remember, that's from the right hand side. Now if you do 2 feet away from the other side, that's how you get the full 4 foot coverage. So from that point over there to that point over there, as we already measured, is 4 feet. So remember, so from the center, you got 2 feet this way, you got 2 feet that way, which covers a full 4 foot. Then you got 2 feet this way and 2 feet that way, covers a full 4 feet, right? So we're covering 4 feet by 4 feet, which is the standard coverage of a 1,000 watt HPS. Now, the reason why the average par rating is so important, why we need to take this, is it predicts exactly, or you can predict pretty much exactly what kind of yields that you're going to get off your light. So if like kind, you're only getting 340, that's if they're even getting 340. They've never done a live video showing the actual measurements like I'm about to do. So who knows what it is, but based on their video, they claim they get 340, which is pretty weak. 340 is like maybe a 600 watt HPS. So you're gonna pull, you're not gonna pull 2 pounds off that light. You're just not gonna do it. It's not possible. It's not possible. Based on the average par rating, it doesn't matter how good that spectrum is, you're not gonna pull that kind of, Now we know that when you have about 575 with a single-ended 1,000 watt Hortolux bulb, we know you can pull 2 pounds because I know growers that do it. Now typically when they do that though, they're using 2 lights next to each other covering, so they have an 8x4 table and they have 2,000 watt light bulbs, HPSs next to each other, creating an invisible light in the center because the beam from this light and the beam from that light actually add up to each other and make a larger beam, so you get more buds there in between. Now I've still seen people though get pretty close or even do 2 pounds with just one single HPS bulb inside of a tent. That's a lot harder to do. It's much easier to do when you have 2 lights overlapping. But my Goliath can do it by itself and pull 2 pounds because it has such a high average par rating or even high average lux rating. Like I said, there's not much difference between lux and par, as I already showed you on the video. So yeah, anyway, and I'm going to prove it too with the lux meter and par meter. Matter of fact, I think I should probably prove that first, just because it's such a dumb thing that this guy said, that somehow, you know, there's a direct correlation between them. Blue light makes no difference. You know, there's a direct correlation. The only thing that makes a difference is the green light. So anyway, let's go ahead and show that first, and then we'll do the measurement. So we're going to measure the center first. Then we're going to measure to the right. Then we're going to measure down toward us. Then we're going to measure these two right here. That's going to be this corner. Then we're going to go to that corner over there and measure those two, and then those two. Then finally we're going to measure those two, and then finally these two, completing the 17 points of measurement. So we're going to basically work our way around the light. Let me go to grab my lux meter so you guys can see the direct correlation between par and lux for each light. And so obviously I don't want to take this light and do that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you it now, and then when we get to the next light and do the measurements, I'll show you the direct correlation between the lux and that light. And then even we'll do the same thing with an HPS, so you can see with the Gavita. All right. All right, so let's look at the direct correlation really fast here in the center. So we're right in the center of the light here, and you can see we're getting 700 and we're going to kind of move it around here. All right, right there. 780. Now this is times. It's on times 100. You can see that. I don't know if you can see this. Right. Come on. Focusing on that. Can you see that right there? It says times 100. There you go, times 100. So you take 785 times 100, so it puts it into 78,000, right? So we're getting 78,000 lux at the center from 23 inches away, folks. That's pretty intense. In fact, you really don't want to get much more intense than that, especially with my spectrum. My spectrum is so efficient that you don't want to get more intense than that. That's maybe a little bit more intense than that, but that's only during the last 3 weeks of flower. Then you could drop it down to about 18 inches away, which is gonna freaking blow this up. Like, look at what happens. It gets up to like 100,000, but you only want to get to that 100,000, you know, during the last 2 weeks. So during the last 3 weeks, you're gonna slowly start dropping it about 2 to 3 inches. And then leave it there for about 2 or 3 days, and drop it 2 or 3 inches, leave it 2 or 3 days. So about a week later, you're at 18 inches away for the last 2 weeks of flower. If the plants start to kind of stress out, you want to back it up a little bit. Now let's look at the direct correlation now with the par meter. So you can see the kind of correlation of numbers. So you can see when you're getting about 14, right in the center there. So we're getting about 1422 par at 23 inches away. So 1400 par, basically 1422, correlates on the lux meter to right around 78,000, right? Now that's pretty much going to be true for every light. And I'll try to make it to where I just move it up and down to where you can see to where it's right at that, you know, that 1400 par, and then we'll see if the lux meter is at right around that 78,000. All right, so let's go ahead and do our average par rating here. We'll mark all these down real fast, try to bust through this as fast as possible. So we got the center rating here. We already did that at 1422. I'm gonna try to put it on autofocus here again, see if it does a better job. All right, so at like 1420. All right, so 1420 for the center. 1420. Then we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna move this way, right, to the next point. And we're at, and I'm gonna have a slight angle, because when the light comes away from the light and hits your buds, it hits your buds at an angle. So it makes no sense to have your meter facing straight up and down, trying to read light coming down when the light's actually coming at an angle. And I'm gonna do this for every single light so that it's fair. That's just the way that it should be taken. And whenever anyone else that does their testing should do the exact same thing. Hold it straight and then have a slight angle to it so that it's at the proper angle the light's hitting it. That the lights will be hitting your plants at. So, I don't know if you saw that, but it was right around 7:35.
There we go. Just to show, let's go ahead and take a piece of black cardboard here. It doesn't make a difference because I'm not at enough of an angle to pick up anything from the ground, from the white ground. Look at that. Still, so even higher. So, see that? 750. Move it out of the way. Oh, I think my knuckle might have been in the way before. Look at that. How can the black make it go up? That makes no sense, does it? Okay, it's not, never mind. So basically, it's actually the same. Look at that. It doesn't really matter. It's all a matter about how still I'm holding it. So, we're going to try to hold it still as possible here. Right around that 740. Alright, so we'll call it 740. That's 1 foot from the center, by the way. So, if you were to think about that for each measurement, 1 foot away from the center each, that would be covering 2 by 2 foot, by the way, just so you know. Alright, now let's go ahead and cover 4 feet. By 4 feet, by covering this mark way out here now, which is the 2 foot mark from the center. So if you have 2 feet from the center on this side and 2 feet from the center on that side, again, that is a full 4 feet. And then 2 feet that way, 2 feet this way, be a 4 feet that way, would be 4 foot by 4 foot coverage, just to make sure people are understanding how this is happening. It should be right around 200. Let me check something out. That was right around 198. I just want to see if the other side over here. I might have knocked it off center this way just a little bit, so I'm just checking the numbers. Hold on. Come on. Yeah, see, as you can see, when I'm on this side over here, I'm like at 212. Not a big deal, so I'm a little bit off center. I could move the whole entire thing, slide this whole thing over just a little bit, but it's not going to make a difference because it's still going to balance out the same. That's why I want to take all 17 measurements around. So it wouldn't matter whether or not I moved it. All that would happen is that would turn to like right around 205, that would turn right around 205. And so you have the same number. So whether that's 215 or 198, it's going to average out the same. So that's why I want to take the full 17 measurements. And I like doing these 17 measurements because it's taking the corner into consideration. Some people do like 16 points of measurement, doing every square foot, directly in the center of every square foot for the 4x4, because 4x4 equals 16 square feet. But doing it that way is not really measuring the corners as well. So I don't know. I just like this measurement works great. Kind uses it, so. So we had what do we have over here again? It was right around 190 or so. So I get stabilized. Sorry, I'm not holding this straight here. I gotta like a robot. So it's 195. Alright, how do I stabilize? Sometimes it takes a second to stabilize. By the way, I already know about what I'm gonna get. I should get right around 555, maybe a little bit higher. Because I've already done this a couple times. Just really excited to want to know what this light measured at. Okay, so far we got 3 points of measurement, which is the top 3 there. Now let's go ahead and measure these bottom 2 here. So now, like I said, we had just measured those 3. Now we're measuring these 2 coming down this way, and then we're measuring the 2 angled ones, which would be the 7 that I usually do. But you don't get as accurate of a reading that way because the center is higher of a rating, a higher number. So you'll get a lower average par rating by doing all 17 measurements, which is more accurate. Matter of fact, the more points of measurement you can take, the more accurate the average par rating is. But 17 seems like a good amount to do. Now we're at 895, 900. So I'm just going to call it 895. 895. Alright, so now we're going to measure this bottom one here. This is the furthest one away from. This one's a little bit higher of a number. And the reason why is because it's the longer side of the light. So 225. Again, so because this is a rectangle light, and this is the long way of the light coming this way, the edge here is going to be higher par than the edge over here because this is the shorter length of the light. So the light's having to travel farther to reach that point than it is to reach this point, right? So I hope that makes sense. So for the light to reach this point, travel shorter than it does to reach that point, which is why a square light is perfect, which is why the Goliath is a square light. But it is a massive, heavy light that not everyone wants to deal with. Now, commercial growers have no problem dealing with heavy lights because they have, if you have a really good, if you have a really good gorilla tent that you do freaking pull-ups inside of, it'll easily hold the Goliath. You don't have to do anything special at all. You just set the tent up and hook the Goliath up. It will hold the weight. Whereas most other brands of tents aren't going to hold the weight without some sort of support. On the Goliath page, I show one way that you can support it that Beast came up with. Is really cool. All right, so now we got to measure these 2 diagonal ones here from the center. Let's go and do that. But I'll try to make these measurements go by faster as we start going now. Trying to get along and make it a little bit faster here. All right, so taking this measurement here now, and we're at about 8. Sorry about this. Just trying to hold it steady here. 8. So boom, boom. I'm leaving the same angle every single time, so you can actually see the angle I'm using. It's very, very slight. Around 830. Alright, so we got 830. And finally we're going to do the farthest corner here on this measurement. We'll move this over here. Sometimes I have to move it around so you guys can see the numbers. There we go, cool. 225, alright. 225. And now let's go ahead and, so now we've done this whole corner, the whole right hand side corner. And we'll move around counterclockwise, just the angle which I'm going to move around the light here. Move that black this way, by the way. My thighs are so sore right now. For professional reasons, I'm not going to tell you why. Maybe you can be smart enough to figure it out. Alright, so, sorry, a little bit, still getting over this chest flu. It's crazy. Right, so we're at this right-hand corner, we're working our way around. So we're already done that line, and then this diagonal line. Now we're going to move over here and start doing this diagonal line, and then that straight line, and work our way around, right? Right, again, counterclockwise here. So now we're on this side of the light here. Let's take this measurement here now. Gotta flatten this out so it's not in the way. Right at 787. This shows that we're not directly centered, because you can see over here we got 830 before. But it doesn't matter, because as long as that center is pretty much in the center of the light, then if this is just shifted a little bit, it's okay, because again, we're going to get the same average. You know, like, if I get 830 over there, or 830 at that mark, and 730 at this mark, or 787 at this mark, and 830 at that mark, if I were just to shift it just a little bit, then the numbers will equal out, but it's going to be the same when you do the average anyway. That's why I'm not really worried about it. Trying to get this, so you see it on camera here. Come on. You can't read it. There we go. 225. Oh, maybe 230. I'm gonna call it 225 anyway. I'll round it down. 225. That was actually the same zone. Let me try something real quick. Maybe this was in the way. I'm just curious if the paper, not paper, but the plastic was in the way here. The cord's in the way now for you guys. You know what? Yeah, so we were getting a little higher of a number than when I went down. I must have had my knuckle in the way. I don't know. I have to rewatch the video and see for sure. It's about 800, so it's still not 830, but it's not 787 either. 800. Alright, now we're going to measure these 2 points here that are coming along. So we're looking down the light here. We're measuring the 2 on this side now. So we're working counterclockwise around the light. Alright, this is getting me a little irritated here. A little frustrated. Get out of my way. God damn it, man. Get out of my way, right? Alright, let's do this measurement, alright. I'm not really sure. I think that's a Scottish accent, kind of. I used to work on it quite often, and got pretty good at it, but I don't know. I have to practice again, I think. Come on, out of focus already. Let's do this. I'm trying to make a video here. We're trying to make a porn, alright? Not really. Light porn. There we go. I'm trying to get right on that line. So you can read it. It's 8:35, 8:30. We're going to call it 8:30. Notice I'm rounding down, not rounding up. That's right. Being totally fair. And now we're at 225. I don't know if you can read that. Hopefully you can. Try to come up higher so you can maybe read it. Oh, come on. There we go. Now you can read it better. So we're right around 220. Right, 220. Sounds good. Like I said, I'm trying to get through these measurements as fast as possible. Right now we're going to work our way, again, counterclockwise. So we start off in that corner over there. Now we're in this corner. Now we're going to move counterclockwise to this corner over here. We're going to measure these 2 corner marks, then those 2 marks, and finally those 2 corner marks over there, and we'll have all 17 measurements done. Let's try to get through this fast now, because I am getting bored as hell. Alright, we're going to call that 800. We're going to call this 220 again. I can almost not read that. Okay, just make sure I'm going to read that later on here. So I have to take the calculations. Now we're at, you can't read that, wow. Looks like we're right at, 7, we're at the short wave light right now. 7, was that 750, sorry, I lost my, come on, stabilize already. 770, 760, we'll call it 765. Alright, now we're the farthest away from the, make sure you can read this. We're the farthest away now from the edge of the light here on the short side. Man, I'm not sure if you can read that, but it's right around the 2. Come on. It just went off. It's like right around 207, something like that. 203. Let's call it 200. Alright, only 2 more points of measurement, then we can do some math, folks. Alright. My legs are so sore, oh my god. It's crazy. This hurts so bad. It's getting up and down every time. It's alright though, it's good exercise. Legs are sore, it's good. Okay, so now we're at, so I'm trying to get right in the center of that mark point. We'll call it 865, whatever. Just bounce around a little bit, so we'll use the lower number. Because that's how badass my lights are. I can just use the lower number. I'm gonna have to freaking try to round up. We're at 220. All right, we're done. Oops. I can't read that number. There we go. 220. Let's go do some math, folks, and let's see what kind of average we got here. That's fucking amazing, I know that. Those are really good numbers. So you can see with those numbers,
numbers in the calculator. So let's go ahead and pop them in there really fast. I like to do all this for you guys live on the video, even though it's boring as hell. So we got 1420 plus, looks like 740 plus 195 plus 895 plus 225. I'm going to hit equals for right now. So that's that first row. So I just want to count these two. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I rewrote that because I couldn't read it. It was 220, but I was like, you already saw that in the video, but anyway, I couldn't read it. I want to make sure I can read it. All right, so I got the first 5 done. Let's do the next 5. So plus, we're going to start here at 830 now. Plus 830 plus 225 plus 800 plus 225, and finally that last number is 830, so plus 830, we'll do equals again. So I can already tell we're doing really good. Now we're shooting for around like 9,000. That would be freaking amazing average. But even if we get like 88,000, 85,000, we're still gonna have a really good average. All right, so the next line here is plus 220 plus 800 plus 220 plus 765 plus 200. Oh shit, folks. We're getting close. Still got 2 big numbers here. Plus 865. Oh my god. Plus 220. Did I do something wrong here? Okay, let's divide this by 17. I don't know if I did anything wrong right there. 569, folks. 569. Did I do anything wrong there? I want to redo it real fast. I'm going to push pause and just redo this numbers and see if I did anything wrong. You rewatch the video again, see if I did anything wrong. I'm pretty sure I didn't. Plug in all these numbers right here yourself. And 569. Damn, that's a high average. Wait until you see what the Gavita gets at its proper distance from not burning plants. That's crazy. 569. 569, guys. Now, of course, it's not going to beat the Goliath, but still, that's a high number. It's going to get close to the Goliath. I can't believe it. That's crazy. All right, let me go ahead and pause and do this really fast.
It's like little nuggets.
All right, so I did not make a mistake. My girlfriend's making fun of my cool Chinese type of modern dress shirt.
I'm not making fun of it. I said the knots look like
I think it's
little
dope.
raisins. I like it.
I like it. So.
I like it too. I was just saying these look like raisins.
Yeah. All right, so bam, there's the numbers again. 569, guys. That's the average par rating. So that means, based on this, you should be able to pull 2 pounds off this light. If not, maybe a little bit more, you know, if you did like a sea of green. That's insane. That's almost exactly... Okay, now, knowing that my spectrum is so much better than like a 1,000 watt HPS bulb is, an HPS bulb, we already know, has an average with the best UFO hood. I think it was, what, 575, 585? It's one of my other videos. I'm not going to go and buy... I don't use those bulbs, so I don't want to go buy another one of those bulbs just to do the test, but I can show it. I can go find the video and show it where I take the 7 measurements, and then all you have to do is equal it around, because that thing was very equal, because it was a UFO hood. So it's like the same numbers like all the way around. And doing that, I have it on that video where I show where I did the measurements of it with the UFO hood. And it was, when you take the measurements, with the all 17 measurements, it came to about 5, I think it was 575, 580, something like that. So, bam, it's almost the same. Like, it's so close to 1,000 watts. So this new Perfect Sun COB is absolutely amazing for the size, for the price. So if for whatever reason you can't afford the Goliath, then you can get the Perfect Sun COB once it's available and get pretty comparable weights. But wait until you see what the average is for the Goliath. New haircut. Hey, it's time to do the measurements for the Goliath now, the big bad boy. And we know I already did some measurements really quickly here, and you can see it's actually pretty similar to the Perfect Sun COB, the new light that I'm going to be coming out with here. It should be available, like I said, right around March, hopefully beginning of March or mid-March, something like that. Freaking amazing light. I'm really happy with it. Yeah, it does use almost 100 watts more, but I mean, you're getting almost the same average par. Here you got 589 for the Goliath and 569 for the Perfect Sun COB. We're about to do the live measurements here for this one, so you can see for yourself. Absolutely amazing. Really, where you can see the difference is at the inner corners, because this light actually covers the inner corners. That light doesn't quite cover the inner corners, and so that light has two, because it's a rectangle, has two inner corners that it doesn't cover as well, and that's where you get that 765. And where's it at? Is there a number like that on here? Anyway, sorry, my 740. So 740, 765. This we get these two numbers here. Where this one here, you get, I did a slightly different order when I did it, this one for myself real fast, but you have like 840 and stuff like that, and 900 for those corners, and so that's where it gets the higher average par. And so you're going to see, you know, bigger nugs underneath this light than you will in those areas than that light, but they're not going to be much different. My spectrum is so efficient that, you know, 765, 740 par versus 910 and 840, 815, you're still going to get, you know, super awesome nugs. So the main thing is, though, that this is tried and true, the Goliath. It definitely pulls the weight. It can pull over 2 pounds. My buddy's already pulled over 2 pounds with it, like almost 2.5 pounds, something like that. So yeah, but that average par, like I said, is so important, because that pretty much mathematically tells you what you're capable of getting with that light, given a good grow, knowing that the spectrum's good. Now, if it were just all red lights, it wouldn't matter if you had an average of 589. Who cares? If your 4x4 area had an average of 589, it doesn't matter, because it's all red light. That's not going to grow good marijuana. If it's just all white light, you're not going to get the big fat nugs that you're used to getting in the sun, that you're used to getting under HPS. Instead, you're going to get, you know, a lot thinner buds. But with the Perfect Sun spectrum, we already know we get soda can sized buds. I've got the soda can sized buds to prove it. Shady Flip's got it. Rusty got close. He got pretty big nugs off his plant. I'm trying to get the growers right now that's gotten off the. That was with the Door Star, by the way. Much weaker light. Anyway, so other people have done it, right? So it's absolutely just freaking amazing. You get these big, fat, dense super nugs because you have that awesome spectrum. Now, why would you go with the Goliath over that light when they're pretty comparable as far as, you know, what you should be able to pull out of them? Because this one is good for bigger growers. So for people that really have their grow technique down, and they already know what they're going to pull. They know they can pull over 2 pounds, or they can at least pull 2 pounds off the 1000 watt HPS. That means they got everything nailed down and everything good. They grow with this thing, they're going to be looking to get closer to 2.5 to 3 pounds per light easily. They're going to be pulled that off pretty easily, because they already got the area there. With this light, they can still get pretty close to that, but this one's going to give them like that 10 to 15% greater yields. It doesn't sound like much for a person that's just getting started and stuff like that. That's the light to go with, because it's cheaper, it's lighter. Not cheaper in the sense that it's less, it's less built or something like that. No, it's a freaking very built, awesome light, just like the Goliath. And in fact, he even uses it more expensive. Those Cree 50 watt top bin Cree COBs are expensive, and so are the the 5 watt diodes with double lens technology from Bridgelux. So this one uses all Bridgelux. That one uses the Bridgelux plus the Cree COB. So the quality of both are tremendously good. The main reason why this one's so much more expensive is it's so heavy. It cost me $150 just to ship this thing, right? And that's the main thing, is the shipping cost of this thing is what makes it. But it uses less electricity. So if you're a grower that's already experienced, and you know that every square foot counts, and you can take advantage of every square foot in your 4x4 area, then absolutely you want to go with this. Or 8x4, whatever your area is. You use 2 of these, whatever. Usually just like 1,000 watt light bulb, same thing with that one. But with this one, you know you're going to get, 10-50% better yields. You know that you're going to use less electricity because it uses about 100 watts less than that one over there. So that's a trade-off. That one uses a little bit more watts, but it is way smaller, a lot lighter, and it covers the same area with really good average par. So I can literally pick the thing up with one hand. It's very easy to manage, so you can throw it in a cheaper tent without having to reinforce it. This thing, you need a Gorilla tent, or you need to reinforce your other tent. I show how to do that, how Beast did it on the Goliath page. Anyway, so now that that's out of the way, let's go ahead and start taking some measurements here so you guys can see what the Goliath pulls out measurement-wise. All right, so before we start doing these live measurements, I did want to show the Lux par comparison here. So if we get this thing here, we'll use the par meter first, just to show. So if we're right there at the 6-inch mark there on the ruler, that doesn't mean I'm 6 inches away from anything. That's just standing up on the sand, just so I can get a reference point. That puts us at about 4. Actually, maybe a little bit higher. Right around. Let's go to the 5. Wait, I'm not in the center. Hold on a second. That's why. And what's interesting is the center of the slide is mostly all white light. So keep that in mind. So for some people that claim to know what the hell they're talking about, they're like, oh, he's using blue to trick the par meter. Yeah, okay. Here's all white light. So we're getting to 14. There we go. That's right on 14. A little bit higher. Okay, so right around that 4-inch mark is 14. That's 1400 par. And we'll see that the Lux meter, when it's at that same height, I don't know if you can see that number. This is going to be hard for you guys to see here. Ah, man. Give me a second here. This is so hard to do by yourself. So there you can see it's right around that 84,000 or so. So between 78 and 84,000, that's the correlation. With that light over there, you can see that the Lux translated to around 78,000 when the par was 14. And this one translates to around 84,000 when the par is 14. So this one, the Goliath, has a slightly higher Lux ratio, I guess, reading. Then that's because the white light's in the center there, whereas that one had some reds in the center. So I mean, it has the cobs, which are white, but then right in the center there, those 4 in the center are actually red lights. So the par meter, as I said before, gives a little bit more bias towards red and blue, all the reds and all the blues. And it's actually more of a bias, I should say, it has more of a bias against green. But anyway, so like I said, there's that curve on there where it's getting a little bit higher. It's basically registering all the red spectrum and the blue spectrum, pretty much everything that's not green. It's weighing in all those with a little bit higher measurement ratio than is the green, whereas this one's just measuring it even across the board. So all colors of nanometers from 400 to 700 measures it equally. This one measures it where it gives a lower number. It basically is like it doesn't recognize as much green photons coming in, but recognizes all the other ones more. And then it gives a different number to it altogether. Instead of giving you the same kind of math this one does, it does a completely different kind of math, so it gives you a completely no number. You can see though that the numbers pretty much correlate to each other. That if you have 1400 par, you're gonna have right around 78,000 to 84,000 lux. It's pretty equal numbers wise. You can calculate them over from each other. If you have, like, let's say right here, or even here, let's go with just really fast just to show this. If you have right around that 900, is that about 900 par, 920? You can see that number there, 920 par. Then with your lux, if you have a good spectrum, if your spectrum sucks, like it's all green or something, then you're not gonna have this kind of correlation. You have about 56,000. I think you see that. 56. Oh, right around. Actually, what is that? 52, 56. There it goes. Make sure I'm right around that same center. 55. Okay, I was blocking some light, that's why. So right around that 56,000 lux. So yeah, 920 par equals right around that 56,000 lux or so. So yeah, as you can see, this light has an awesome lux. So does that one. So all my spectrums have high lux and high par. So you know, some dude out there on the internet that thinks he knows what the fuck he's talking about when it comes to LEDs, claiming, oh, he's trying to use blue to trick the par meter. No, blue doesn't trick the par meter. Sorry, it doesn't work that way. You can see I have a high lux reading and high par reading all the way around with all my lights. That's what the Perfect Sun spectrum does. Why? Because it's like the sun. The sun has a high par reading and the sun has a high lux reading. And if your lights don't have both high readings, then there's something wrong with your light. It's not doing what it should be doing. All right, so let's go ahead and take these measurements here. We'll start from the center, and we'll work our way around clockwise like we did before, taking 17 measurements in total, and then we'll add them up all together. All right. So starting with the center one here, I got to stay back here out away from right around 12. Hopefully you can see that number.
I can't see. It's like around 1220, but I can't see the. I don't think you can see the number. It's right around. Looks like 1230. All right, sorry about that. All right, so 1230. That's for the center. I'm at about 2 feet away right now with the Goliath. That's where it grows very well at for most of its life. I'm trying to stay away from the light, trying not to block any of the photons here. Alright, so I don't know if you can see that number there. Hopefully you can. Just trying to go around. I can't see I can see it myself. I can't see inside the camera because I have glasses on. Looks like it's 855. It's going between like 858 and 860, but we'll call it 855. Round everything down. I can do that because I have the baddest lights on the planet. These two lights right here are the baddest lights on the planet right now for getting the best yield per area squared. Without a doubt, hands down. You're going to see, I'm even put the Gavita up against these lights to get average par reading. That thing you want to grow with it about 3 feet away. That's the perfect height for that thing because it's so intense with its heat that it has to be the highway when you grow with it. We'll also do the Perfect Sun 1000 as well. Alright, now let's take the farthest reading over here on this edge. Sorry about that. Hopefully you can read that number. I'm just going up and I'm trying to just like go up and down with it so you can kind of see it. It's right around 190 something for me. 195. Just kind of bounce around because the light's moving. So 195, that's where it's stabilized at. Sorry about that. 195. Yes, numbers are boring, but at least taking the numbers are pretty boring, but it's very essential so you know what your light is capable of doing. And so this right here proves that my light, can do what I say it's doing, and it is doing what I'm saying it's doing. It's getting over 2 pounds, just like the HPS, because the HPS we already know gets around 575 average par. That's with a top of line, brand new, single-ended HPS wall by Quarter Lux in a UFO hood, or also called umbrella hood, which has the best even spread for covering a 4x4 area. And so that's giving it the best of the best that you can possibly get that light bulb. And that's where you get that about 575 average par for 4x4. So my Goliath beats it. You'll see that in a second here. And that one comes very close. It's almost exactly the same. So, but it has a better, more efficient spectrum. So you should be able to pull more weight off that Perfect Sun COB than you even do off of 8,000 watt HPS. All right, let's go ahead and finish these numbers out here. Looks like we got 890, 900. Come on, stabilize. We'll call it 895. Round it down again. Alright, now we're going to do this far corner over here. Or not corner, but edge. This is the farthest away from the light you're going to get right here, these buds. We're at about 198, right around 200. You can see that, right around 200, so that's where it's stabilized at. So we'll call it 200. Alright, next we're going to do this inside corner right here. This is where you get high numbers right here. This is where the high numbers come in. This is where you get a higher average par rating from this light versus the COB light. Because it's such a big light that we're still directly right underneath the light. So 920. And then finally we'll do this far edge corner. Now the far edge corner, believe it or not, really isn't too much higher than the COB light. COB light has really, really nice throw. It throws light really, really good. Right around 270. Right. Alright, that's the first set of measurements. Now we're going to work our way around the light counterclockwise. And now we're going to take these two diagonal ones over here on this side, and then we'll do the straight ones on the center here. Then we'll do those two diagonal ones, and then those two center, and then those diagonal ones. And that will conclude our measurements. Alright. Let's try to get this all set up right here. Well, actually, wait a minute. Sorry. Yeah, I did those, okay. Just making sure. No, come on. 2 again. Right around 8. 860, 870. See, it's like stabilizing. Just take a second. We'll call it 870 though. You see the light's not perfectly centered. That's fine though, because we'll still get the same average, so that's why we're doing all the way around the light. So 870. But it's pretty close to center. Alright, now we got the far one here. Far corner. And we're at 2. You see there? Looks like 228. We're trying to let it stabilize. 230. You can still see that. So it's going up and down, so we'll call it 230. It's going a little higher than 230. Alright. Now we're going to do the 2 here in the center of the light here. These 2. That we just did the 2 corner ones there. Now we're going to do these 2 center ones here working our way around like I said. Sorry about that. Trying to hold it evenly here. Steady as it goes. It's alright. It's staying right around 800. As you can see that. Around 800, so. Alright. We'll call that 800. You notice the other side was higher. So that's how you can tell that this whole thing, this whole plastic needs to be slid that way just a little bit to make it center, but it's alright. It's close enough. It's still going to, like I said, it's still going to average out the same. It's not going to make a difference. Because these numbers will be lower and those numbers will be higher, so that's why, again, why you're taking all the way around the light. So it looks like we're at 195. Alright, now we're moving to... there we go, come on, papers. So we just did those corners and we did this straight. Now we're doing this corner here, these 2 corner ones. The corner measurements. Come on, papers, get out of the way. Alright. Alright, so we're at 790. We'll call it 795. And then finally this far corner back here. We're at 2. I'm sorry about that. When I do that, it blocks the light a little bit, so... No, maybe it didn't. Let's try it like this. About 225. 225. Alright, so now we're going to go right down the straight center here. So, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yeah, so we got 4 more measurements to go, like I said. So now we got these 2 down here in the center. We'll call it left side light. And then finally the 2 diagonal ones there, and we'll be all done measuring. So we're about 815. Okay, now we're going to move out here to the far edge on this side. And looks like it's going to be 215. Hopefully that's readable. Yes, as long as I can read it. Making sure I can read it. It's kind of hard to write like this, but... Alright, let's see here. We got this side, like I said, hold it closer. Because it's a little offset, like I said. 924. So we'll call it 920. And then finally, this far corner over here. Looks like we're at 272. So we'll call it 270. And make sure we have the right amount. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Alright, now let's go do the math real fast.
So let's go ahead and crunch these numbers really fast here. I'll probably be speeding up a lot of the video. You'll still be able to hear what I'm saying, but it might sound a little bit chipmunk-like just for it's not like so long. So we got 1230 plus 855 plus 195 plus 895 plus 200 plus 920 plus 270 plus 870 plus 230 plus 800 plus 195 plus 795 plus 225 plus 815 plus 215 plus 920 plus 270. Alright, so divide that by 17 points of measurement. We got 582. Right, so you can see it's, the average par rating. Every time I take it's maybe just a little different. But yeah, so 582 versus the 569 on the other one, the Perfect Sun COB. So Yeah, it has a little higher average par rating, but what's awesome is, I mean, and by the way, every average 10 par rating for a 4x4 is a pretty significant difference. So 582 versus 569 doesn't sound like much. It only sounds like, a little over, well, let's just go 582 minus 569, and you got 13.3. So basically, that 13 doesn't seem like much of a difference, but it is a difference. You'll probably get right around, maybe 10% extra yield, something around there, with my Spectrum. So yeah, pretty awesome. So why spend the extra? Because if you can get the perfect, I'm gonna go over this one more time. If you can get the Perfect Sun COB for $900, let's say, or $895 free shipping, and you can get the Goliath for $1,150. So that'd be basically 9, 10, 11, so $250 more. Why would you spend $250 more to get that 10% extra yield? There's, like I said, a couple different reasons. If you're a really good grower, you know what that extra 10% equals, especially if you're growing with a bunch of lights. Extra 10% per 8 lights, that's a huge amount of difference in how much yield you're going to get. The other thing is that it uses about 100 watts less electricity. That's a big bonus too. But the bonuses for the COB light is it's smaller, easier to handle, easier to hang, and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, actually, the Goliath's really easy to hang. It's just, you just have to have the proper tent, like a Gorilla tent, or you have to have the proper, hanging system in place for it. You can even use a cheap tent if you do something like the Beast Den. I show that again on the Goliath page. Have a little piece of wood structure you can build on the top of your tent. Pretty easy to do to hold the weight. But yeah, that's the main benefit. Is it's smaller, lighter, and easier to use and handle, and it's cheaper. So, and the only reason why it's cheaper is because it's lighter. Some of the parts in there are more expensive. Those Cree top bin 50-watt chips are more expensive, but for 6 of those in there, than having just say a bunch of the bridge locks. Nonetheless, even though it actually works about the same. I mean, parts wise, they're almost the same. Now, obviously, more metal goes into the Goliath, but the Goliath is so heavy, and I have to pack it with such big packing because how heavy it is. The box ends up weighing like 82 pounds or something like that, 86 pounds, somewhere around there. So it's freaking heavy, and the light is like 58 pounds or 62, somewhere around there. It's heavy. It's a heavy light, and so it costs a lot to ship. It costs me, with my FedEx discount, $150, and that price might go down here. That they're talking. They just gave me a call and said that they're going to try to work out a slightly better price for me for shipping. It's only going to change it a few percent, so it's not really make much of a difference. It might go from 150 to maybe 145 or something like that. So it's not that big of a deal, but still, it's kind of cool. Like over time, it saves you a little bit of money. But yeah, so anyway, the Goliath is just way expensive to ship. Whereas the COB is a lot cheaper to ship. So I can save a lot of money that way for you guys. Basically, obviously, I include an average shipping price in the cost of the light, which is why it says free shipping. But yeah, so that's that, guys. Now let's go ahead and measure the Gavita. I bet you a lot of guys have been waiting for that one. That one you want to grow. If you grow with the Gavita stationary, you want to grow with it at about 3 feet away. If you grow with it too close, if you grow with that 2.5 feet away, it will burn your plants. It'll fry, even during flowering, it'll just fry them. And anyone that grows with Gavitas knows they all grow 3 feet above their plants. It's just something you have to do. If you put on a light mover, you could get it closer to the plants. But if you move it too far, then you're going to get the same amount of yield as if it were stationary at 3 feet above the plant. So that's one thing to consider. So again, I would only still try to cover, I would only move it to cover 6 by 4 feet or something like that. Maybe 6 by 5 if you have the right hood and have it turned the right way. But yeah, anyway, so let's go ahead and check out the average, because that's really what matters. The average par rating is super important. Now with the Perfect Sun 1000, what's interesting about that light is because, and like the Gavita, they're so powerful from, let's say, 18 inches that they have to be in a light mover or they'll just fry your plants. And so there you can get away with moving them 5 to 6 feet and get really good yields out of it that way, and using that same that same area as if you're using like stationary lights to cover that same amount of area, and get really good yields out of it. And because you're getting super high par still, but it's being dispersed through a movement, but that movement does change the par a lot. That's why it has to be so intense. You have to be in that like 3,000 par range, or at least 2,000 par range to make it worthy of moving a light. But yeah, so let's go ahead and take some measurements of the Gavita. Big bad boy it is. It's a badass light, let me tell you, but it uses a lot of electricity. So both, the Perfect Sun COB still almost uses twice less electricity as a Gavita. Almost half. I should say half. So it uses about half electricity of Gavita. It uses about half electricity of a 1,000 watt HPS as well, but not. It's a little bit over half. Whereas the Goliath uses half the electricity of those lights. So it's definitely, you're using less electricity over time as well. That's going to save you money if you're a big grower, or even if you're just a really experienced grower. The Goliath is going to, save you money over time versus the Perfect Sun COB. But the Perfect Sun COB is a very, very awesome light, and I'm going to be growing with both of them, so side by side from my 8x4. All right, let's go do the measurements now of the Gavita. Double-ended bulb, super powerful. In a badass hood, too. With a badass Galaxy ballast, the $250 or whatever thing. Damn, the thing's expensive, turbo overdrive. So yeah, it's a powerful light. And one thing I want to show with it is I want to show that some people out there are just such liars when it comes to selling their lights. They're just full of fucking shit that they try to claim the Goliath. They're like, oh, look, it's from 3 feet away, its lux is only like 60,000. Bull fucking shit. I'm gonna show you right now how powerful it is. And this is a used bulb that's been going for like a year, and you're gonna see that it's freaking powerful. 3 feet away, I think it's like 90,000 lux or something crazy like that. It's super, super powerful light. All right, let's go and do those measurements. Now, really quickly, I'm gonna show that everything's on up and up before we test. This is the sun system hood here for the Gavita double-ended bulb. And I want to show real quickly before we do that, I'm going to show some bullshit some of you other people don't show, but look what we got here. That's the amount of watts it's using. So 1,170 watts. That means it's fully on turbo and it's fully warmed up. You can see it's being powered here by a Galaxy Grow Amp, digital ballast, and it's at turbo. See that? Turbocharged. So that's how these bulbs are supposed to be. I'm going to show that by the reading it gets from 3 feet away. But first I'm going to show that the bulb is 3 feet away. You can see the bulb right in there, and just showing this right here, you see that 3 foot mark right there. So we're actually at 3 feet away. That's how far away it should be when you grow with this bad boy, because it produces lots of heat, and you don't want to fry your plants. It's not because the intensity is so intense, because look, it's really not. Neither the lux or the par is super intense. 60,000 lux. This is all I want to show though. Now, the dude took his video down. He had a video up where he took lux readings of his Spectrum King lights, and then took them down after I made a video showing that it was full of crap. Where did they go? They're gone. But he does still have one with the par reading, where he's taking the par measurement, and he says it's on the up and up, and he's using a Gavita, right? He says, oh, here's a Gavita. Now, maybe he meant it's a 600 watt Gavita, or maybe, that's the only thing that makes sense. Because if it's an actual 1,000 watt Gavita that he was measuring, he got 545, and this is on his site. It's like 2 years ago. You can look at the videos from 2 years ago, and it's the one with the meter. You can actually see the meter on the video. And he measures a Gavita in it, the older style Gavita, where it's, instead of using double-ended hoods like these here, and you can see it's a double-ended bulb. It's, both ends are firing up, as you can see there. That's the double-ended bulb. So it's not a single-ended bulb. Double-ended bulbs run a lot hotter, and they can run them on turbo. They're also a lot more powerful, as you can see, 60,000 lux from 3 feet away, which is crazy strong. Anyway, so he was claiming he's getting like 545 par. Well, what the hell is that from? Because check this out. I got the exact same par meter, and you can see this whole video's been going the whole time without pausing, and we're at 3 feet away. And look at 900, 925, 914, that's where it's going between. The light's kind of swinging a little bit. So yeah, bam. How does he get 545 when a true Gavita, when it's on full power, gets, you know, from 3 feet away, gets like 900 par? Right? Because he was trying to compare it to his light, that's why. So he's like, oh, look, we're getting 545. With my light, we're getting like 400 par, which is weak anyway. From 3 feet away, that's weak. Weak sauce, man. It's weak. You know, I guess it's not totally weak, but compared to my lights, it's weak. Anyway, so, but definitely compared to a real Gavita, it's weak. That's what you should be getting at 3 feet away. And that's why the thing has to be 3 feet away. Not because this is so high. You can grow at that. Even with my spectrum, I can grow at 1200 during like mid-flower or so. And the lux isn't that strong either. I like to be around like 90,000 lux is perfect. That gives you nice big fat super buds, and that's where you want to be at. But with the problem with the Gavita is they put off so much. You can physically feel the heat away from this thing. They put off so much heat that you have to keep your room super cool to try to keep the top of your plants cool enough and blowing air. You know, you have to put them in some sort of cool hood or something like that. So most growers grow with them at 3 feet away. You might get away with dropping down to 2.5 feet away during like mid-flower and on, maybe. But they just produce so much heat. They're like a heat lamp. Like, it's cold as hell in my garage, but right here, oh, I feel good. I feel good in these things. Even way down here, I feel good underneath this thing. So, just want to show that the dude's full of crap. His readings are incorrect. I should probably, you know, make a little clip of that part of the video again, right here, just so you guys can see that he's like trying to pull some bull crap. You know, if he should tell us that it's a 600 watt Gavita, if it's a 600 watt Gavita. And I can only assume that's what it must have been, trying to compare watt per watt or something like that. But people don't care about that. What people care about, what professional growers care about, is how much am I going to get per square foot. Per every 4x4, can I pull 2 or more pounds? Yeah, you can with my Goliath. Yeah, you can with my Perfect Sun COB. Yeah, you can with an actual double-ended 1,000 watt Gavita. You know, yeah, you can even with a really good 1,000 watt HPS system. Just a standard single bulb. You can do it. It's a lot harder with that. Like that's you got to be a really good grower to pull that off. But it can be done. With my light, it's easy to do. It only uses 575 watts. So, all right, now let's go ahead and start taking some measurements of this thing and see what the average par is for 4x4. I just wanted to show the thing there. Now, also another thing I wanted to show is if we get that 1400 par here. So right about here, I'm going to go ahead and take the tape measure. That way I can see exactly, just from the ground. I just need a reference point so I can see about how high I need to be on this thing to get 1400 par. And it looks like about there. So right between 2 and 3. Well, actually right at 2. Okay, so that's where I need to be at 14 par on this thing. So I'm going to do the same thing with the lux meter, and we're going to see what we get. I kind of don't want to block the light. You can see here the lux reading is going to be higher on a Gavita per the same amount of par. You can see that. Look at that, 103,000 lux. Now that's getting crazy. That's at let's see, how high was that here? Taking account of this thing here. Well, I want to see exactly where it was at. I know it was under a foot though, I'm pretty sure. Let's see here if I was trying not to block the light here for a second. Actually, it was about a foot high. So at 2 feet away from the double Gavita Pro, you're at over 100,000 lux. You're about 105,000 lux at 2 feet away. That's insane, guys. That's like totally insane. That's why you can't grow with this thing at 2 feet away. 100,000 lux is too much lux, right? So even in the summertime in the sun, if you go over 100,000 lux, I mean, if it's only for a few days or something like that, it's okay. But most people will put shade, like they'll shade their plants a little bit for a couple of days, or just be in the greenhouse. The greenhouse actually cuts out like 20% of the sun or so, something like that. Depends on the greenhouse, and that gets rid of those really hot days where you're above 100,000 lux. like the days in California when it gets to 130,000 lux, you don't need, that's too much. It actually makes the plant stunt and not grow. Known fact that 90,000 lux, 95,000 lux, that's the sweet spot. That's where you want to be at. Any higher than that with the sun is too much. Any higher than that with the HPS is too much. Anyway, so you can see that with the LEDs, the correlation with 1400 par was about like 82,000 lux, but with this thing, it's more like 100,000 lux. So you can't get to 1400 par with the Gavita, otherwise you're going to be frying your plants. So you can't have this thing 2 feet away from your plants. You might get away with 2.5 feet away from your plants, like I said. But most all growers that I know grow with these things at 3 feet away, and so that's the distance that we're going to take the average par rating. It's just crazy, though, that the extent people will go to lie to try to sell something. It's just ridiculous. But yeah, so let's go ahead and get this party started. Hopefully, he'll like just redeem himself and say that, hey, that I was actually using a 600 watt Gavita, and then it's like, okay, I can understand now why you're getting such low numbers. But even then, I don't know if it'd be that low. But so in the middle we got 900. Now what's cool about this thing, and you can watch this, it's really good at, look at that, that's a foot away, and now watch this, 2 feet away. Look at those average numbers. We know we're gonna get a big average for 4x4. We're at 600 at the edge, guys. So this thing's absolutely, it's a beast of a light. So it covers a good area. Matter of fact, you can now 600 par with a Gavita, because the spectrum isn't nearly that of even just a standard LED. Although it's better than most LEDs out there that try to just use like red and blues and stuff like that, or just all white. So I know that this thing will blow away anything by Spectrum King. I know for a fact a Gavita will, because I know people that grow with both of them, and they end up using their Spectrum King for veg lights because they don't compare to these things. They went right back to their Gavitas for growing, and then I was like, hey, you gotta try the Goliath, man. And so far he's on his second grow with the Goliath and just absolutely loves it, because it's a bomb light. It actually performs and does what it's supposed to, and pulls over 2 pounds for 4x4. But anyway, so 600 sounds very high for an average par rating, but 600 is right like 5, maybe 400. 400 is the minimum with HPS. You don't want to drop before 400, and even Jorge Cervantes will tell you that. If you're ever watching his videos where he's doing the par readings, he's like, oh, in this one video he shows between the lights, he's like, 400, that's cutting it. That's just barely, because he knows with HPS 400 par is just barely enough to grow marijuana. It's like, you're gonna get just barely baggable marijuana. It's not gonna be throwaway. So 600 is pretty decent. You're gonna get some decent sized nugs. You're not gonna get the big fat nugs like you will get under the 900 par or higher, especially when you get to 1,000 par. The problem is, though, if you get this thing too close, you're gonna burn. Again, you'll burn your plants. That's the main problem. But you might, like I said, you might go with 2.5 feet. Now, with my spectrum, 200 par is a lot. 200 par is crazy a lot. It will give you nice, good, baggable, dense buds, way denser than 600 watt from a Gavita. Denser, frostier, and just awesome bud. Yeah, so that's how efficient it is. It's just that efficient. It's crazy. All right, so let's go ahead and do this real quickly and write down some numbers. Now 3 feet away, this thing will almost cover 5 feet, honestly. 5x5 kind of, especially with the right kind of hood on it. You might be able to pull that off. Let me just see something here. Yeah, it may be, because it's going to be about 350 par at the 5 foot mark. Let me check right here. I can see we got this distance here. I'm just gonna go an extra foot out here real quick. All right, so just going an extra foot out here, like I said, so now we're at 5 feet. Well, 3 feet from the center. Actually, wait, that'd be 6 feet. So we're actually 3 feet from the center, and we're still getting about 378. So just about usable. But if we go, the half foot mark, definitely usable still. Look at that. So if you have 2.5 feet, 2.5 feet, that'd be 5 feet. See, so or a little over 5. Can you see that? So I mean, it will cover 5 feet by 5 feet. You know, from 3 feet above your plants, a Gavita will cover 5 feet by 5 feet. The problem is you're going to want to lower it probably to about 2.5 feet. You know, especially during those last 3 weeks of flower, and then that's where it's not really going to cover out as far when we do that. But let's go ahead and take the readings for a 4x4 average, and just know it's going to be high, but the spectrum isn't like the best. And so we already know that a Gavita at 3 feet away, people can pull, you know, up to 3 pounds per light if they're really got their light stacked together to where they're overlapping each other, and they got the, you know, the best strains possible to really pull that off. But typically people pull about 2.5, and that's what, you know, my Goliath will do that all day long. All right, let's go ahead and check this out. So we got 900 in the center. I'm gonna put 910 because it's actually 912.
It wouldn't be fair just like we do with all the other lights. This is just to show that the average par is crazy high on these things. We got 800. And finally, the very edge. You're going to see it's not this huge drop off. This way it doesn't reflect light nearly as much as the other way. As you can see, the other way I was able to get all the way out to that almost the 6 foot mark and still get 500 almost. Well, not quite. At the 6 foot mark I wasn't getting that, but at the 2.5 foot mark it was. Lights are at 540. Next we'll come down this way. You can see when we come down this way, the way the hood's designed. It's just the way the bulb's designed too, you know, it doesn't throw light the vertical way of the bulb as well as it does this way of the bulb, horizontal way of the bulb. Right now we're at 6. So we'll go 665. Same thing with my light. Just round down a little bit. And then finally here at the very edge. This is kind of surprising me because it must not be completely centered. Because this here is a lot lower than the other side. As you can see, look at this. 273. So what, 270? Like I said, it doesn't matter that we're not centered. We're still going to get the same average because we're going to get a higher number on one side and lower numbers on the other side. What did I say that was again? I guess that was 275, right? Just trying to do it again here. Hold on. Yeah, 275, okay. 275. Alright, now we got these two diagonal ones to take. So right there at 760. I'm just going to start a new line here. Not the right, the number's so small. Come down here, the very, very corner. Now here you can see the corners. Drop the camera so I don't block the light. We got, notice I'm holding an angle for all lights. 385. So round it down just a little bit. 385. That's actually really good for the corner. But again, that's still under that 400 minimum. You want to be at that 400 minimum with an HPS. So it's not covering it out the best. But again, it's not fully. I don't think it's truly centered because look at this one here. Yeah, it's definitely not centered. So I'm getting way high numbers on this side. Which is fine. Which is weird though because I went ahead and, hold on a second. Alright, sorry about that, my thing got all tangled up on me. Alright, so we went ahead and we're on that side and we did all that corner. Now we're doing these two diagonal ones, the same way we did with every other light. And I'm thinking maybe the light might be slightly, I don't know, just seems maybe it's not quite. So my phone had died, so there we go. I'm going to finish with these two corners that we left off at. And let's go ahead and get this going. Alright, so we have 890 for the corner there. And right here we got far quarter. 7. It's like 710. Oh, it's not really a. Let's give it a chance here. Around 710. Oops, I'm blocking the camera lens here. 710. Right, so then we got to do these two straight ones here, and we got to go down to the. Still got a few more measurements to take here, actually. Let's go a little bit forward. 970. And back here. It looks like 670. Yeah, that's around a little bit 670. I can already tell this have a good high par rating right here. Anyone that says, now we're doing this this far corner right here. Anyone that says that that Gavita 1000 watts aren't the bomb are just fucking stupid. They are the best HPS light period on the market, and they're tried and they're proven and true. And if you are a good grower, you're going to pull 2 pounds of light pretty easily with the Gavitas. So they're an awesome light. They just also use a lot of electricity, and they produce a ton of heat. So you're gonna have to, even if you just grow with one of them, you're probably gonna have AC unless you have like a really cold environment they can be in, good air exchange and stuff like that. You can control them pretty good though. I mean, if you only have like 2, but you're still, man, your electric bill's crazy. When I was just running 2 of them, just 2, my electric bill that was just just a regular AC, only a 1300 a BTU. And so anyway, that room would cost me like my electric bill would often be $600 a month, just running 2 of those things. And I think that house was kind of crazy of how much electricity it used, but still, that's typical pricing. That's kind of cheap too compared to most places in the world. Here's even better, even cheaper. So got 905. I can also guarantee you can easily get over 2 pounds with my Goliath and with my Perfect Sun COB, and you'll still get awesome results. Actually, better. You'll get better weed, better density, better frost. Looks like 705. And you're going to use way less electricity, half the electricity. We already saw this one was using 1,180, as I just showed you before. I'll show you again right here. 1,170, right around there. Right, and so, like the Vita only uses 575, and you can cover the same area. We'll get the same yields, from it, I should say. Because some people like to cover 5x5 with this thing. Even I think it's a waste of space, so some realize that, hey, that's a waste of space. Because they're not getting that big of buds out on the edges. But if it's the only light you had, and you're trying to get max advantage, I'd recommend getting a 5x5 tip with this light. 850. And that's something that other LED companies don't do either. They don't, they always try to down talk HPS like it can't do anything, like people don't actually fucking grow, 2 pounds of light and stuff, it's like, come on. They're like trying to tell you, oh, it's always shit weed and stuff like that. I mean, most all top shelf weed is done with HPS, so they're out of their fucking mind. They're just trying to push their product so bad that they're like in some sort of delusionary state. HPS is awesome. If that's all you can afford, freaking grow with HPS. It's the way to go for the cheap, but in the long run, you're going to end up spending more money. That's the downside. And I grew with HPS for years until I was able to find a light that can give me the yields and stuff that I wanted. And I want to go to this far corner over here. That'll be the last 2 measurements. And it took me designing, the best spectrum in the world that I've never done before, which is crazy because think about
how crazy this is, right? Out of I was saying about this last couple of days, and it's just been blowing my mind. Out of over 7 billion people on planet Earth, right? Over 7 billion people on planet Earth. Now, only a handful or fraction of those people, though, a couple million, are actually in the LED business, or inventors, or thinking about, how. Innovators and stuff like that, thinking about how they can create a better LED light. What's the best LED light? Thinking about the spectrum, scientists and so forth. None of them came up with the spectrum. Like, why not? It just seems so simple and dumb. Like one of the most obvious things smacking you in the face. Just fucking recreate the sun, And no one thought of how to do it in the way that I did it. I mean, there's people that had that kind of idea, but never even came close. To creating the sun, it's like all their spectrums look like this, like 2 mountains and mountain peaks, and sometimes those mountain peaks are thicker, sometimes they're thinner, but that's all he had. And what are the odds, that I'd be the guy out of all those people to think of it and do it? It's just kind of trippy when you think when I think about it, like, wow, that's crazy.
I had other really cool ideas too in life that I didn't have the money to carry out and make happen, and unfortunately someone else eventually did. 410 or so. Actually, look at 415 actually, where it's gonna settle. All right, let's go ahead and do these numbers. One of them, actually, believe it or not, was I remember telling my mom and stuff. This was like a while ago, and I remember telling my mom and my sister and stuff and my friends and I was like, hey, how they have, I'm sure a lot of people thought of this idea because it just seemed like a no-brainer. Like they had like food dispensers and stuff like that. I'm like, if they have
you walk up and you can buy a sandwich out of a dispenser, because I saw those at like airports and things like that. And I remember back in the day when they had, cigarette dispensers. It's like you can dispense like virtually anything out of a dispensary, or not a dispenser, I meant. So why not movies and video games? Why not have a box that, and I was also thinking about the jukebox, when you go in a bar and play CDs, I know it can hold CDs and play them. And so I was like, I already know they have the arm and robotics, to handle this kind of, type of thing. It'd be very easily. It wouldn't be that hard. It wouldn't be that expensive. The technology's already there for a long time, pretty much. And so, it's a robotic arm. And so why can't they have something like that dispenses, movies and games that you go and rent, and then you return them, and, it takes your credit card. That way, if you don't return it, then, you get charged on the card. I don't know, it just seemed like, no-brainer to me. And I thought it'd be a cool idea. Didn't have the money to invest in it. I really wanted to, but I didn't have the money at the time. And maybe 4 years later, Redbox came out. And I'm like, oh, there goes the idea, I guess. It's something I really wanted to do, too, because I knew that it'd be huge. I knew it'd be so huge. I knew it would put Blockbuster out of business. I knew it'd put Hollywood out of business. I knew it'd put all those guys out of business eventually. And sure enough, it did. Now the only things that survive are small guys that keep, like, old movies in stock, that the only other place to get those movies are, like, on eBay or something like that, or Amazon, to rent them that way. But yeah, so, alright, let's go and crunch some numbers. Alright, let's go ahead and be fast about this. We got 910 plus 800 plus 665 plus 275 plus 760 plus 385 plus 890 plus 710 plus 980 plus 670 plus 905 plus 705 plus 850 plus 600 plus 790 plus 415. Not as high as I thought it was going to be, actually. Divided by 17. 665. Still pretty damn high, though. Let me write this real quick. So, anyone that says Gavita doesn't give high numbers is obviously full of shit and pulling your chain. They're not being honest with you. So, I'm being honest. It pulls a higher average par than my lights. Now, the only thing I have to keep in mind, and this is how, and I've already pulled the same weights with my Goliath as people pull with Gavita, that 2.5 pound mark. And even the 3 pound mark I'm going to do. I already know I can't.
The thing is when you see these numbers at the edges, these 670s, 600s, and, these lower numbers at the corners, the 385, 275, this right here is hardly going to grow anything with this spectrum. 385 will grow a decent bud, actually. But 275, that's pretty low. You're not going to get much off of that. But these other numbers, these 600s and 700 above is really good at this light. But these 600s, that's something that is it's like a 540 here, 665, 600, 670. So those places around the light is really going to suffer, and those buds they're going to be just good enough. Like they're going to be good. They're not going to be bad. They're going to be good, but they're not going to be as good as like the 700 and above. Those are going to be your biggest, most dense buds. But they're definitely all going to be usable. And the other thing is that Gavita does have definitely better penetration than a regular HPS. The problem is, though, it has to be 3 feet above the plant. So because you have it 3 feet above the plant, you're not going to get the kind of penetration that you would expect, because it's still only going to penetrate about 3, at the most 4 feet into your plant. But guarantee you open your plants up and you're going to get some dense buds down there. And you can also put it on a light mover. You just don't want to move it too far, otherwise you're not going to get more yield. You're just going to take up more space and get the same yield. At the most, you probably only want to move it like 6 feet to get maybe a slightly better yield than if it was stationary, and you can get it close to the plants. So that just allows you to do it with a shorter ceiling if you want to use that light with a shorter ceiling. But yeah, so that's pretty much it, guys. So 665, which is very, very good, but that's an HPS spectrum. So we know that the HPS spectrum is weaker. We already know what you get out of 665 with Gavita. Some have been able to get up to 3 pounds per light when their plants crossing the lights together, right? So that's only possible, just to make this clear, that's only possible when they have more than one light. So if they have one Gavita here, right, and they have another Gavita here, they're crossing each other, and right here they're creating this invisible light. And that invisible light is what increases the yields per light. if they just do one single Gavita by itself, they're not going to get 3 pounds off it. If they do, it's going to be like really hard to pull off. With the Goliath, I know I can pull 3 pounds off just using one light in the tent. And I'm going to do that to prove it to everybody in the world, based on the numbers and stuff. So anyway, the 600, because the spectrum is so inferior, is equal to like 200, or 200 even in like 30 or something like that. But right around 200 of my spectrum. So 200 par of my light will keep up with 600 on a Gavita and 600 on good like Hortilux 1001 HPS. No problem all day long. So that 665, although it's an impressive number, it's not more impressive than 582 with my spectrum. Right? That's not even 100. That's not even 100 more than mine. In fact, it's just because I don't feel like doing the math in my head here. Let's go 665 minus 582, so 83. So it's only got 83 more average par, and that's not going to translate to higher weights because of the spectrum difference. And that's definitely something I want to look at too. I want to look at the spectrum of my light, which means I'll have to use my girlfriend's phone to film and my phone to show the spectrum. But yeah, so it's just absolutely awesome spectrum from all the lights that I have. They're the same all the way around. But yeah, you got that deep reds, those deep blues. But yeah, so let's go ahead now and take, just for the hell of it, other people want to see what the average par ratings are in some of the lights. So let's take the average par rating for the 1000 for a 4x4, even though I don't think it truly covers 4x4. But at stationary, it will. I think. We'll see what we get at the very edge when it's stationary. And when it's stationary, it wants to probably be right around 2.5 feet above the plants. That's as close as you're going to be able to get it. At least that's as close as I was able to push it. All right, so let's go look at that. Obviously, the COB is better. Like hands down, a better light, better stationary light, going to give you bigger yields. The main thing though about the Perfect Sun 1000 is its penetrative power is so deep that even when it is 2.5 feet above your plants, it'll penetrate 7 feet, and at 7 feet away, it's still that's right dead center of the light. Towards the edges, it's not that high, but dead center of the light, it's like 400 at 7 feet away. So that's insane. That's what Spectrum King gets at 3 feet away. So that's all at 7 feet away. So you got to think about that, right? And it's still covering. You see that it still has a nice, good, coverage, a good spread in here in just a second. So it's covering all that space, which is absolutely amazing. I have my robot, otherwise I'd go FaceTime right now. I guess I could, but it's not too big of a deal. But anyway, yeah. So thinking about it. Anyway, so the plant will penetrate deeply. So you all you have to do is take off 2.5 feet from that 7. And you're still getting 4.5 feet penetration into your plant, so you can still grow a really tall 4.5 foot plant, open it up, so that the light can reach all the way down to those bottom buds, and you're getting vertical growth as well as lateral growth. That's something something to think about, right? When you're growing with an HPS, you're going to get maybe the top 2 feet of canopy is going to be penetrated with good enough light to where you're going to have nice buds. Anyone that's growing with HP knows that. HPS knows that. You might get that first 3 foot, and it really starts dropping off after 2 feet though. After 2 feet, the buds start getting really, really small. With the Perfect Sun 1000, when it's stationary, it doesn't do that. You don't get that drop off like that. You get buds all the way down to the bottom of your plant. Even if your plant is like 4.5 foot tall, they'll be only like this big at the bottom, but they'll be nice and dense and solid, and it's absolutely amazing. So you're getting more vertical growth, more buds that are more usable going down the plant than you would with HPS. So even if the HPS is covering a little bit better area, on the top, and you're getting bigger buds on the edges there, it's making up for it by pulling the buds down below. So you can still get a really, really good yield with the Perfect Sun 1000 if you open up all your plants and grow taller plants. So as a stationary. Now, if you use it on a mover, I recommend only moving it 5x4, covering 5 feet. So cover 5x4 feet, and then you'll get nice good yields of at least 1.7 pounds. That's been done several times very easily, but still that's not comparing to the Goliath, that's not comparing to the new Perfect Sun COB, and you're going to see why and when you see the average par rating. We'll also take the average par rating of the Door Star. It's something that people have been wanting to see too. I think that's something to look at as well. And that thing I already know can pull 12 ounces, but 10.7, 10, 11, right around there, 10, 11 is very easily and doable. It only uses 225 watts, so that's still pulling like 1.3, 1.4 grams per watt very easily. But the grams per watt isn't so important. It's the amount of marijuana you're getting out of this space, out of every square foot. So if you have the Door Star, covering, let's just say 3 by 3, and out of that 3 by 3 area, you're pulling, 10 ounces or something like that, let's say. That's actually not doing too bad. Of course, that's nowhere near what the Goliath is getting, but it's also only using 275 watts. So if you were to put 2 of those, to cover a 4 by 4 area, then, it's not going to be as even of a spread, but still it's going to be good coverage, and especially if you do it like this, like a diagonal orientation. So you have the lights something like this. So let's say here's the let me just draw this real quick and show it to you. All right, so if you have the orientation something like this right here, this is the 4 by 4 tent, and you have the 2 Door Stars like that inside of it. That right there is going to give you a pretty good yield, because you have the crossing of the lights here and here. So the light extends out this way, and that crosses the light that extends out this way, right? So this creates like invisible light here, creates an invisible light here. Not nearly as intense, but still 2 invisible lights, and so you're going to get a good amount of yield out of there. Each light's not going to give you just 10 ounces easily. It's going to give you over that easily. It should at least give you minimum 12 ounces per each light, so 24 ounces in that 4 by 4, which is pretty good. And that would be 1.5 pounds. So you're getting 1.5 pounds off of using 460 watts. But if you can afford it, you might as well go up to the Perfect Sun COB. It's not that much more expensive, actually. Think about it. If you do what 385 plus 385 for 2 Door Stars, you're paying $770. So if you can afford the extra $130, or extra $125 to be precise, then let me see here. Make sure I did that right in my head. Yeah, if you can afford the extra $125, get the Perfect Sun COB, because you're going to pull over 2 pounds. You're going to pull at least that 2 pound mark, pretty easily without trying too hard. You definitely want to fill up the space and all that kind of stuff with the right plants and be a decent grower. But anyway, either way, you're going to get better yields than with 2 Door Stars. But if all you can afford is just a Door Star, at least you can still pull 10 ounces pretty easily. As long as you train your plants right and everything. And I recommend not trying to do one plant when you're trying to get maximum yields. Always try to do more plants, smaller, more plants, and you'll get better yields that way, easier. All right, so let's go finally now, and let's go. I'm keeping all these here so we have all the numbers. Let's go get the numbers for the Perfect Sun 1000, and then finally for the Door Star. The Door Star, we're going to do it the average par for, I think, for 3 by 3, because that's like really it's really hot spot. We can always do an average par of 3 by 4 as well, or even 3.5 by 3. But it's just 3 by 3. That's its like really sweet spot. But we'll see. All right, so now we're gonna do the average par for the Perfect Sun 1000, covering 4 by 4. Now you can see that the way it's designed, the way it's shaped, it's very rectangular. So it's not designed to cover 4 by 4. I mean, and this side, yeah, it's to cover 4 by 4. The best way for this thing to cover 4 by 4, folks, is to put on a light mover and move it back and forth just a little bit, just to cover 4 by 4. It doesn't have to move that very far, because look, it's almost covering 4 by 4 right now. It's like right here. It only has to move back and forth like a foot. So you're gonna set the markers, on your light rail. Those little screw things you screw in, only a foot apart. That's it, 1 foot apart. So it's only moving 1 foot like this. that's going to fully cover this 4x4 area really, really easy. Matter of fact, you might be able to set it to 6 inches because it hangs over each side. And that's going to give you that 4x4 coverage. At the max, you want to cover 5x4. But if you want to get the best out of this light, you know, per square foot like the Goliath, only cover 4x4 with it and moving a light mover. Having a stationary light mover, you're not going to get as much out of it. Just moving that extra, that foot on the light rail, I'm telling you, it makes a huge difference covering 4x4 that way. You'll get bigger yields. It'll still penetrate all the way down to the plant. Even when I move it the full 8 feet, I'm penetrating, you know, 3 feet in my plants easily, all the way to the bottom of the plant with nice dense buds, all usable buds. But you get bigger buds and stuff, so you get the same yield whether you move it, you know, covering 4 feet or covering 8x4 feet. So I recommend covering the 4 feet, obviously. Now you have to use more lights that way. So it all depends whether or not you want to, you know, and stationary is fine too. You just have to make sure you have the ceiling height to have that 2.5 feet. We're exactly 31 inches above the ground right now, which is 1 inch above 2.5 feet. So it's basically 2 feet 6 inches above, and that's your sweet spot for stationary. You might, you know, maybe even 3 feet during flowering, but I know it can handle 1250 par, which is how I get the sweet spot, is that center. So I know that center is right around that 1250 or so, you know, 1200. That's where you want to be. Right now I'm just kind of checking to make sure I got the sweet spot going on here, and I do. Okay, cool. And she's at, right now, when she's fully warmed up, this one is at 555 watts. So it uses less watts than the Goliath by a little bit. Not too much though. So we're at 1200 in the center. Right, so let's go to mark this number down. Right, 1200 in the center. We're going to move over here now to going toward the edge here. And looks like we have, sorry about that, I'm trying to stabilize my hand here. 725, alright.
$7.25. Finally, we move out to this far edge over here. And you can see this is where it really suffers. It doesn't have as much edge penetration at 135 or so. And it's even worse going the other way. Still, the 135 will grow respectable buds with this thing. They won't be like really big or anything, but they will be definitely nice. You guys already seen what I've gotten on the edge buds there, and they're pretty awesome. All right, so now we're at 375. And then we're going to be, this is where we're going to really drop down in numbers here, because we're at the very, very edge of this light. And this is where you can see it doesn't like truly cover the 4x4. Because 60, what is that, 63, so 60, we'll just round it down. 60 will grow tiny nugs that are pretty dense, but not as dense as not as dense as something at like 100 par. 100 par, actually, believe it or not, with my spectrum, especially with this light. I know this light at 80 par, I grew a nug that was about this big, and it was nice and dense and frosty. So it was awesome. 60 par, I had one bud that had 60 par, and it was a little bit fluffier. It was still baggable, like it was definitely, you know, still worthy of being top shelf. It just didn't have quite the density, but sugary as hell and super nice. So, but small, you know, they're not very big. All right, we got 500. That's actually really good for that area, for this inner corner. I didn't think it was gonna be that high. Now we got this far corner. This is where we're gonna really suffer. We're at 94. So looks like, actually I was on center. Sorry about that. Looks like it might be 100. Nope, 95. 95 is good. Again, these are where we're gonna get the smaller buds. And this is where this light, you know, but this light again, where this light misses the mark from the Goliath and the Cob as far as the spread on the edges. It makes up for it with its penetration. I've already showed a video of that. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Where this thing penetrates 7 feet away. So, you know, even though it's 2.5 feet above your plants, like I said, it's going to penetrate 4.5 feet into your plant canopy. And as long as you open up those plants So, you know, it's more suited for growing taller plants, if you want to get maximum yield out of this thing. Alright, now we've already done all those, so now we're doing the diagonal ones here. Let's go ahead and do that. I should probably move this out of the way like that. And we got 555. Another triple number. Interesting enough, the watts right now, on this particular Perfect Sun, I've grown with it a couple times. It's one of my personal lights. And the wattage is 555 as well. Thought that was interesting. At least it was when I looked at it. Now it's 551. Because that's what's cool about my lights. They actually go down in electricity after they warm up. Not by much, but they do go down. Like when it first fired up, it was like 575. It only stays there for a short amount of time. And then it starts going down, and it goes all the way down to about 550. Hopefully I can read that number there. Get closer. It's 105. We're still going to get a decent, you know, average par for 4x4 for this thing. It'll probably be right under 500, is what I'm guessing. Still beats Kind. And it has way better penetration than Kind's biggest light, so 460. Man, I really hope all these other big companies out there. Wait, what was that again? Was that 460? Lost my train. Yeah, it was like, okay, it was 460. I really hope that these big companies out there that claim all their fucking talk actually fucking put out video like this showing what the average par is in real time. They can speed up a little bit, like I do, just for, you know, I might sound like a chipmunk, but at least it's understandable. It's not understandable, so you got like 80. And that way it's, you know, at least a little bit faster, so it's not like so boring. But still, they need to do it. Everyone needs to share this video with them and tell them, hey, look what this guy's getting. Or, you know, I'll probably make individual videos for each light as well, breaking it up. But they all need to make a video like this and be like, hey, how come you guys don't make videos like this? Like, just start emailing all these companies, be like, hey, you know, I'm interested in your light. Unless you don't want to lie, you're actually not interested in the light. But anyway, just be like, hey, if I were interested in your light, 560. If I were interested in your light, I want to know what the average par rating is, because I know that's going to tell me, you know, exactly what I can get out of that light. You know, that's what's so important about average par. Well, also in the spectrum, you know, the spectrum has to be good. You know, if they just have like a blue and red spectrum, you're not going to get, you know, the maximum yield you can get out of that par. So I'll call it 115. Actually, I was really stable at 118. I'm not gonna put that down too far. Alright, we only got 4 more measurements to take here. Oh, I gotta bring this forward a little bit. The inner side, look at that inner circles is so good on this thing. 18, that's really big fat buds. Wait, what was that again? It's like 860. Come on. 860. It's 225. I don't know if you can see it. Hopefully that just shows through. 230. Actually, it's actually settling at 230. 2 more measurements, guys. 2 more measurements here for this bad boy of a light. 5. Looks like it's gonna settle it. The light's kind of swinging. Oh, wow, hold on. It's just the slightest little movement too. I'm just trying to stop that slightest little movement there. Come on. I'm trying to stay still as well. Yeah, 550. Okay, we'll call it 550. It's pretty consistent with where it was everywhere else at that particular mark. And finally, 115. Alright. So, there we go. Let's go calculate the numbers up. Alright, so let's get down to business here. Okay, so we got 1200 plus 725 plus 135 plus 375. Who owns calculators anymore? You know, because it's on our phones for free. Plus 500 plus 95 plus 555 plus 105 plus 460 plus 80 plus 560 plus 118 plus 860 plus 230 plus 530 plus 115 divided by 17. So actually only 394 at 2.5 feet away. It would have got a little bit higher if I would put it exactly 2.5 feet away. That 1 inch does make a difference. So right around 400 there.
And that seems like it's low. It is. But because it penetrates so deeply that, you make up for it, like I said, in depth than in coverage. It's not made to cover 4x4. So its average par would be really high for the area that I say it covers, which is, 4x3.5, or, right around there. So even 4x3 is actually really what it covers. So if I would have done an average par rating for 4x3, we'd be way up there in the 500. So that's how much it actually covers stationary. But you can cover 4x4 with it, as you can see here. The thing is, you just have to...
keep in mind that you have to grow taller plants if you have it stationary. And that's going to make up for the weight. So you're going to get vertical weight. You're going to get more vertical weight out of it than you will out of the Goliath and out of the Perfect Sun COB or out of any HPS light. And that's where you make up for your weight right there, is that vertical depth. Now, obviously, the LED lights don't have that kind of penetration power that the 1000 does, and that's what's unique about the 1000. You can get lights like even the take Spectrum King's light, and even he says when you put the freaking crazy 60-degree lens on it, it's not going to cover very high because it has to be so high above your plants. It's still not going to penetrate very deep into your plants because he's like, you need like 15 tall ceilings. That's crazy. And even if you do that, it's by the time it's touching the top of your plant, it's still only penetrating like 3 feet into the plant. My light's the only one that will penetrate 4.5 feet into your plant with high par. And that's 300 par all the way down to the bottom of your plant. That's insane. So you can even penetrate 5 feet into your plant and still get 200 par all the way down to the very, very bottom of the branch of the plant. And so just keep the plant nice and open all the branches up with some good bulb training, whatever, and you're going to get a really good yield out of that area, out of that 4x4 area stationary. So you can go that route, or lower the light closer to your plants during flowering and move it to where, on a mover, to where it's going back and forth about a foot on the mover, and now you're going to be guaranteed to get those big yields. But again, you're going to be lucky with proper training, everything, to get 2 pounds off of the Perfect Sun 1000 per 4x4 area or 5x4 area. You can do it, but you have to grow properly. You have to grow tall plants. And so that is not something you people want to do because it takes a while to get a taller plant. Not too much longer. I mean, your grow times aren't too much longer, but you still have to get taller plants out of it. All right, so let's see what the dwarf star can do now. And actually, before we do that, I wanted to show the spectrum of the Perfect Sun COB, just to show you guys that it is the same spectrum. Now, again, I'm going to be changing a couple things on it. So maybe I should wait until I'm going to wait till I do the actual light reveal video, because I'm changing a couple things on it that wasn't quite mathematically predicted right and felt right. I go more by feeling than, I don't know, I just feel this, like I just sense it in my head exactly what the end result's going to be based on what's going to be, based on what colors I put in there. I sense what my spectrum is going to be at the end, and most of the time I'm like right on the money. Sometimes I'm a little bit off, and this time I'm just a little bit off. I just have to change it. I have to tweak it just a very, very slight. I mean, it's almost perfect right now, but I'm a perfectionist, so it needs to be perfect. So I just need to add a little bit more deep blues in there, take away some of the lighter blues, and add some more deep reds and take away some of the lighter reds, and then it'll be perfect, that Perfect Sun spectrum. It's already there right now, but it's just, I want it to be absolutely perfect. Right, so let's go look at the dwarf star now. So here we go, the sweet baby, the Perfect Sun dwarf star. So now I'm going to go ahead and take those measurements here. We'll start with the center measurement. And her sweet spot she likes to be at, let's see if we can read that number. Okay, so 1130. Her sweet spot she likes to be at is right around, this is at 19 inches away. So that's
like 19, 20 inches, that's where we definitely want to be the last 3 weeks, maybe the last 4 weeks. 11:30. Alright, cool. We're gonna go down. I'm gonna go down this way this time. And we're covering 3x3 with her because that's your real sweet spot, is 3x3. Now you can get away with covering, 3.5 by 3, or maybe even 4 by 3.5, or something like that with it. But that's really pushing it too far. You're not gonna get big buds on the outside of that thing. But if that's the only light you have, then push it as far as you can, because you want to get the biggest yield you can out of it. So, cover it. But, in a 3x3 tent, this thing would absolutely just kick ass, so keep that in mind. Alright, so now we got, looks like 3 35. Now, keep in mind, now these X's here, these are 6 inches away. So, 1 foot, and then 6 inches away. So 1/2 feet each side equals 3 feet. So we're doing 3 feet all the way around, covering 3 feet by 3 feet. But even if we get, like, let's say 500 par, which is ideal for 3.5 feet, or 3 feet by 3 feet, that doesn't mean that you're going to get the same. Let's say we got 569 par, the exact same thing as the Perfect Sun COB. The problem is it's 3 feet by 3 feet. So even if we had that high number, it's not going to get the same yield as the Perfect Sun COB, because Perfect Sun COB is getting that average for 4x4. Right, so that's a huge difference. But if we can get a high number like a 500 for a 3x3, that is bitchin'. That means you should be able to pull over 12 ounces with this thing. Yeah, so that's pretty awesome. Alright, next one here. Looks like we're at, I don't know if you can see that there. Looks like right around 100. Alright, I'm going to do that order a little bit differently here. Just easier to actually, don't know why I wasn't doing this way the whole time. Working my way around the light here. We got 4. Just kind of zoom into the number. Looks like 435. 435. Now we're going to move this down here. Try to make sure these papers aren't in the way. Oh, that's one thing I forgot to do. Okay. Hold on a second. I gotta take this measurement. In fact, instead of taking a measurement, I'm just going to use the ruler real fast here. I don't like drawing, so let's do it like this really fast for this test here. Oh, come on, stay up. Alright, we just want to be right there at that 6-inch mark. Right there. And it looks like the number is 127. I don't know if you can see that. Alright, so we'll call it 125. Alright. Now, moving along here. I don't belong here, 'cause I'm a freak. I'm not trying to sing, by the way. Alright, let's see here. 470. We'll call it 470. Even though it's higher. Alright. Now that halfway mark here. Looks like it is 160. Yeah, I'm starting to get impatient. It's very uncomfortable doing these measurements. Do not like it at all. But, gotta be done. Gotta show you guys what all the lights do. Alright. Now we have 430. That's awesome. Okay. The halfway mark here. We got 135. Oh man, sore. Hey, I'll leave the young thing alone. Ain't no sunshine when she's gone. Oh shit, that was on camera. I should probably edit that out. Because I can't sing. I am practicing though. Slowly. I believe that even if someone doesn't have a natural singing voice, which I don't, I really believe, that's 390, I really believe that anyone can sing, right? Everyone has a singing voice, you just gotta train it. It doesn't mean you're gonna be no Frank Sinatra, those guys are naturals, they got a natural singing voice, but I do believe that if you practice how to sing properly, is that 102? Yeah, it says 100. If you practice to sing properly and, use your vocal cords properly using your head voice, and that was my head voice right there a little bit, that you could actually, find your own singing voice to where you can sound good. At least you can sound in tune and sound in key. I got a little off key there. I don't know if it's key, whatever it's called. I was a little out of tone, or I didn't have the right notes, whatever. That's the main thing I need to work on is my notes. Gotta make sure I'm hitting notes. It's just like an untuned piano. If you play an untuned piano or an untuned guitar, it don't matter how good you fucking play, it's gonna sound wrong. It's gonna sound off because it's not in tune. Same thing with singing. If you're not hitting those exact notes right, it's gonna sound like shit. Well, I mean, not shit. You can take the best voice in the world, the best singer in the world, as far as like how good their voice sounds. And if they're just like learning a new song and they're not hitting the notes right for some reason, or there's sick in the head that day and they just can't hit the notes, it's not gonna sound as good. I'm 60. It's gonna sound off. Something's not gonna sound right because they're not hitting the notes that they're supposed to be hitting. Did I? Let me see. Hold on. Let me just make sure I was at the right. Okay. I'm just checking something. Okay, I was at the right measurement point here.
Alright, let's go ahead and do these two right here. So 605. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay, cool. Let's make sure that didn't miss any. 245. That's a comma right there. I need to remember that. Did I say that was? It's a little bit higher than that. It's almost 260. Let's give this one a chance to settle. Alright, yeah, that's what I thought. 260. Gotta be fair here. Be fair here. It's my own life. I'm gonna fucking be unfair with it. I mean, that's kind of funny that I'm willing to do that. Man, this fucking chest flu is insane. I'm telling you, don't want to get it. If it's going around your area, wear a mask. If someone has around you, don't get it. Wow, that looks like it's gonna settle at 500. Alright, that's nice. That's really good. For that corner right there. That means the lights may not be totally centered. Oh wait, I'm going too far away. What am I doing? I'm going out to the 4 foot mark there. We're at like 145, 150. Yeah, looks like 150. Cool. Let's go crunch the numbers, guys. Bam!
I kind of realized it's probably pretty fucking boring to just see me sit there and type all the numbers on a calculator. So here's all the numbers. You can see them very clearly. 17 numbers. So if you want to double check the number 351, just type each of those numbers into your calculator and plus them all together. And then divide by 17. That's how you get the average. So 351, which is insane because this light only uses 230 watts of electricity, folks. 230 watts of electricity. It's covering, 3 by 3, which is what kinds, honestly, their biggest light, which is like 675 watts, that's really all it covers. Because it doesn't cover the edges at all of 4 by 4 like they claim. They even claim it covers 5 by 5. It might do that in veg, but barely. In flower, there's no way it covers 4 by 4 because even on their site they say at the edges it's only like 35 par, and then on the other edges it's only like 55 par. That's not covering 4 by 4. I'm sorry, it's not. So anyway, it covers like 3 by 3. But check that out. I mean, 351. So if you were to use Kind's big light and this light, you probably get pretty comparable yields, which is insane. It's kind of crazy, because the average par there, you just got to fill that 3 by 3 up with the right amount of plants, and 351 is going to give you a good yield. I'm positive with 351 you can get over 12 ounces. You can at least get 12 ounces if you do the proper kind of grow. Now, if you just do one big massive plant, you might not be able to pull that off, but you do several smaller plants and you're going to pull that off. You're going to pull off that no problem. I mean, I guarantee you can at least get an average of an ounce off each plant, and you can throw in a 3 by 3 pretty easily. Just figuring out the math really fast. Hold on, this should be easy to figure out because they got 8-inch. They do the 2-inch pots. They have the the 2-inch fabric pots. Fabric pots we want to do that'll give you the biggest yield, and they got 8 inches across. So you can easily fit 16 plants in those 2-gallon tall pots. They're called, I believe the brand name is Smart Pot or something like that. I was looking at them, and anyway, I was just looking for the tall ones. I just ordered some actually for myself, and the tall 2-gallon ones are like 11 inches tall by 8 inches wide. They actually hold a little bit more medium than a lot of the 2-gallon fabric pots. And anyway, so with that 8 inches wide, you can easily fit 4 by 4 in there, meaning you can fit 16 total very comfortably. So 16 plants very comfortably, and if you can't pull an ounce on average for each one of those, something's wrong. So you should be able to pull 16 ounces, but even if not, like if you pulled less than an average of an ounce per plant, you're going to pull 12 ounces pretty easily off this dwarf star. So doing the right kind of grow like that, you can definitely pull it off. If you were to use the 3-gallon pots, you should be able to pull an average of at least 2 ounces per plant, at least for a majority of the plants, or probably an average of 2 ounces per plant. Like the middle plants would be more like 3 ounces. And yeah, so it's definitely doable, folks, with Dwarf Star. Just absolutely crazy for only using 230 watts. That's just amazing. And I know I can do that. And I'm going to have to eventually prove it, because, other people probably aren't going to do it. Or if they do it, they're not going to make it public. And that's the problem, is a lot of people just, you know, don't want to make their grows public, and for obvious reasons. So, but, you know, they have sent me stuff, but I can't make it public. I can like post, you know, anonymously, you know, just like their pictures of what they've grown. Amazing what people are doing with that mini. There's this one guy that posted a picture on the 420 magazine on one of my threads, and what he's doing with the mini is amazing. Like, he has this big fat plant underneath it, and it's just doing so good and beautiful. And I think he's gonna beat my record for sure with the mini. And I still wanna, you know, bust out the mini too, you know, really show what it can do. But that's all in the future to come, guys. Thanks for watching all this shit. I know some of it's been boring with all the numbers and stuff, but people wanted it, people asked for it, people are like, hey, I really want to know what the average par for each light is. And yeah, so you can know what you can get out of them. My best two lights, the Goliath, hands down, and then the Perfect Sun COB. And, you know, I'm sorry for everyone that bought the thousands. It's still a great light. You just have to, you know, don't move it as far in the mover and have taller plants, and you'll get great yields out of it. So it's still an awesome light. It's just not as awesome as the Goliath, and it's not as awesome as a new COB light coming out. And yeah, so I'm really not sure how long it's going to be before I come out with another light, folks, honestly. So for those that are waiting for me to design something better, it might be a while. So, I mean, I will eventually design something better. It's only matter, you know, the technology keeps getting better and better, and the better technology I have to work with my brain and designing concepts, I know that I'll come out with something better. You know, hopefully come out with something like the, you know, the Perfect Sun COB, but to where it uses less electricity, but still covers that 4x4. That's the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is just covering 4x4 with the least amount of electricity possible and still pull, you know, the amount of weight people need to pull. You know, if I have to, maybe design one even that uses, you know, 700-800 watts, but guarantees you can pull that in that 3 pound. Like, my goal is to get the highest average par for 4x4. I need to get those edges bigger, but without getting a light too big. That's the problem. I don't want like a big heavy light. So it might be a while to, like I said, I'll come out with another idea or design. I got this like kind of other idea I'm working on right now, but it's going to be a while before it comes out. And, you know, the COB, that Perfect Sun COB is a fucking badass light. Like I said, it's so badass, I'm going to grow with it. So I'm going to go with the Goliath and that light side by side, and yeah, see what happens with that next grow. And also I'm going to be pulling, I'm going for 3 pounds for the Goliath. I'm positive I can do it. If everything goes smoothly and all that kind of stuff, I'm pretty positive I can do it. So stay tuned for that, guys, when I come back from vacation. But still, I'm dropping down some knowledge on you guys, you know, different stuff like the most important parts of growing and different things like that while I'm on vacation. So I'm still going to be able to teach things about growing that are really important, that help me get to where I am at now. All right, again, thanks for watching, and that's it. Double peace, guys.